A failed mission to Byzantium. When 8 days had passed, and the Bulgarians had already departed, thinking that I thought very highly of his table, he compelled me, ill as I was, to dine with him in the same place. There was present also, with many bishops, the Patriarch, in whose presence he asked me many questions concerning the Holy Scriptures, which, the divine Spirit inspiring me, I expounded with elegance. And at last, in order to make merry over you, he asked me what synods we recognized. When I had mentioned to him Nicaea, Chalcedon, Ephesus, Carthage, and Cairo, Constantinople, "Ha, ha, ha," said he, "you have forgotten to mention Saxony, and if you ask us why our books do not contain it, I answer that your beliefs are too young and have not been able to reach us." I answered, "That member of the body where the infirmity has its seat must be burned with the burning iron. All heresies have emanated from you, have flourished among you. By us, that is, by the Western nations, they have been here strangled, here put an end to. A Roman or a Pavian synod, although they often took place, I do not count here. A Roman clerk, indeed afterwards the universal Pope Gregory, who was called by you Dialogus, freed Eutychius, the heretical patriarch of Constantinople, from his heresy. This same Eutychius said, nor did he only say, but taught, proclaimed, and kept writing, that we would assume at the resurrection not the true flesh which we have here, but a certain fantastic flesh. The book containing this error was, in an orthodox manner, burned by Gregory. Ennodius, moreover, Bishop of Pavia, was on account of a certain other heresy sent here, that is, to Constantinople, by the Roman Patriarch. He repressed it and restored the orthodox Catholic teaching, the race of the Saxons, from the time when it received the holy baptism and the knowledge of God, has been spotted by no heresy which would have rendered a synod necessary of an error which did not exist. Since for the correction of an error which did not exist, since you declare the faith of the Saxons to be young, I am willing also to affirm the same, for always the faith of Christ is young, and not if with those whose works second their faith. Faith is there not young, but old, where works do not accompany it, but faith is scorned, as it were, for its age, like a worn-out garment. But I knew for certain of one synod that was held in Saxony, in which it was decreed and confirmed that it was more fitting to fight with the sword than with the open, and better to submit to death than to turn one's back to the enemy. Your own arm has experienced the truth of this. In my heart I said, and may they, the Saxons, soon have occasion to show how warlike they are. On this same day, after midday, he ordered me to meet him on his return from the palace, although I was so weak and changed that the women who, before when they met me, called out in astonishment, "Mana, mana," now, pitying my misery, beat their breasts with their hands and said, "Poor sick man." What then, raising my hands to heaven, I wished him, Nicephorus, namely, as he approached, and you, who were absent, oh, that it might be fulfilled! But you may well believe me, he made me laugh little, for he sat on an impatient and unbridled horse, a very little man on a very big beast. My mind pictured to itself one of those dolls which your Slavonians tie onto a foal, allowing it then to follow its mother without a rein. After this I was led back to my fellow citizens and fellow inmates, 5 lions, into the aforesaid hated abode, where, during a space of 3 weeks, was treated to the conversation of no one save my companions. on account of which my mind pictured to itself that Nicephorus wished never to let me go, and my unbounded sadness brought on one illness after another, so that I should have died, had not the Mother of God by her prayers obtained my life from the Creator and his Son, as was shown to me not through a fancied but through a true vision. During these 3 weeks, then, Nicephorus had his camp outside of Constantinople, in a place that is called At the Fountains, and thither he ordered me to come. And although I was so weak that not only standing but even sitting seemed a heavy burden to me, he compelled me to stand before him with uncovered head, a thing which was entirely wrong in my state of ill health, and he said to me, "The envoys of your King Otto, who were here before you in the preceding, you promised me under oath, and the wording of the oath can be produced, that he would never in any way bring scandal upon our empire. Do you wish for worse scandal than that he calls himself emperor, or that he usurps for himself the provinces of our empire? Both of these things are unbearable, and if both are insupportable, that especially is not to be borne, nay, not to be heard of, that he calls himself emperor. But if you will confirm what they promised our majesty, will straightway dismiss you happy and rich." This, moreover, he said not in order that I might expect you to observe the engagement, even if in my foolishness I had made it, but he wished to have in hand something that he might show in time to come to his praise and to our shame. I answered him, "My most holy master, most wise as he is, and full of the Spirit of God, foreseeing this which you do desire, wrote me instructions, which he also signed with his seal, lest I should act counter to them, to the effect that I should not transcend the bounds he set for me. You know, my august master, what I relied upon when I said this. Let these instructions be produced, and whatever he shall order will be confirmed by an oath from me to you. But as to what the former envoys, without the order of in master, promised, swore, or wrote, in the words of Plato, the guilt is with the wisher, the god is without fault. After this we came to the matter of the most noble princes of Capua and Benevento, whom he calls his slaves, and on account of whom an inward grief is troubling him. Your master, he said, has taken my slaves under his protection. If he will not let them go, restore them to their former servitude, he must do without our friendship. They themselves demand to be taken back under our rule, but our imperial dignity refuses them, that they may know and experience how dangerous it is for slaves to fall away from their masters and to flee slavery, and it is more becoming for your master to give them over to me as friend, than to renounce them to me against his will. Indeed, they shall learn, if my life holds out, what it is to deceive their lord, what it is to desert their servitude, and even now, as I think, they feel what I say, our soldiers who are beyond the sea, having brought it to pass." To this he did not permit me to reply, but although I desired to go away, he ordered me to return to his table. His father sat with him, a man, it seemed to me, 150 years old. Before him, as before him, so the Greeks call out with hymns of praise, nay, with blatancies, that God may multiply his years. From this we can gather how foolish the Greeks are, how fond of such glory, how adulatory, how greedy. For not only to an old man, but to an utterly worn-out greybeard, they wish what they know for certain that nature itself will not grant, and the worn-out greybeard rejoices that that is wished to him, which, as he knows, God will not grant him, and which, if he did, would be to his disadvantage, not to his advantage, And Nicephorus, if you please, could rejoice at being called the Prince of Peace and the Morning Star. To call a weakling strong, a fool wise, a short man tall, a black man white, a sinner holy, is, believe me, not praise but contumely. And he who rejoices in having strange attributes called after him, rather than those that are rightly due to him, is altogether like those birds whose eyes the night illumines, the day blinds. But let us return to the matter in hand. At this meal, a thing that he had not done before, he ordered to read with a loud voice a homily of St. John Chrysostom on the Acts of the Apostles. At the end of this reading, when I sought permission to return to you, nodding affirmatively with his head, he ordered my persecutor to take me back, my fellow citizens and co-denizens, to the lions. When this had been done, I was not received by him until the 18th day before the calends of August, July 20th, but was diligently guarded lest I might enjoy the discourse of any one who might indicate to me his actions. Meanwhile he ordered Grimizo, Adalbert's messenger, to come to him, and bade him return with the imperial fleet. This consisted of 24 Calandian, 2 Russian, and 2 Gallic ships. I do not know if he sent others which I did not see. The bravery of your soldiers, my masters and august emperors, does not require to be encouraged by the weakness of their adversaries, although this has often been the case with other nations, the hindmost of which, and the weakest in comparison, have struck down the Greek bravery and made it tributary. For just as it would not intimidate you if I announced that they were very strong, and comparable to the Macedonian Alexander, so also I do not put courage into you when I narrate their weakness, true as it is. I wish you might believe me, and I know you will believe me, that you, with 400 of your warriors, can slay that whole army, if ditches or walls do not prevent, and over this army, in scorn of you, as I think, he has placed in command a sort of man, I say, because he has ceased to be a male, and was not able to become a female. Adalbert has sent word to Nicephorus that he has 8,000 knights in armor, and says that if the Greek army helps him, he can, with them, put to flight or annihilate you. And he asks your rival to send him money, that he may the more readily induce his troops to fight. Now, however, my masters, hark to the wiles of the Greeks, and from one single example learn all. Nicephorus gave that slave, to whom he had entrusted the army which he had brought together and hired, a considerable sum of money to be disposed of as follows. If Adalbert, as he had promised, should join him with 7,000 and more knights in armor, then he was to distribute among them that sum, and Cono, Adalbert's brother, with his and the Greek army, was to attack you. But Adalbert was to be diligently guarded in Bari, until his brother should come back, having gained the victory. But if Adalbert, when he came, should not bring with him so many thousands of men, lie ordered that he was to be taken, bound, and given over to you where you came. Moreover, that the money which was destined for him, Adalbert, should be paid over into your hands. Oh, what a warrior! Oh, what fidelity! He wishes to betray him for whom he prepares a defender. He prepares a defender for him whom he wishes to destroy. Towards neither is he faithful, towards both untrue. He does what he did not need to do. He needed to do what he has not done. But so be it. He acted as one might expect from Greeks. But let us return to the matter in hand. On the 14th day before the calends of August, July 19th, he dismissed that motley fleet, I looking on from my hated abode. On the 13th day, moreover July 20th, on which day the flippant Greeks celebrate with theatrical plays the ascension of the prophet Elias, he ordered me to go to him and said, "Our Imperial Majesty thinks to lead an army against the Assyrians, not as your master does against followers of Christ. Already last year I wished to do this, but hearing that your master intended to invade the territories of our empire, letting the Assyrians go, we turned our reins against him. His envoy, the Venetian Dominicus, met us in Macedonia, and with much labor and exertion induced us to return, affirming to us with an oath that your master would never think of such a thing, much less do it. Return, therefore." When I heard this, I said to myself, "Thank God," and announce this and this to your master. If he give me satisfaction, return hither again. I answered, "If your most holy majesty shall command me quickly to fly to Italy, I know for certain that my master will fulfill what your majesty wishes, and I will joyfully return to you." In what spirit I said this did not, alas, remain hid from him, for, smiling, he nodded his head, and ordered me, as I was adoring him to the ground, and was going away, to remain outside, and come to his meal, which smelt strongly of garlic and onions, and was filthy with oil and fish juice. On this day I brought it about, through many prayers, that he deigned to accept my gift, which he had often scorned. As we were sitting at his long, narrow table, which was covered for some ells, for the most part, however, uncovered, he made merry over the Franks, under which name he included the Latins as well as the Germans, and he asked me to tell him where the city of my bishopric was situated, and in what name it rejoiced. I said, "Cremona, quite near the Eridanus, Po, the king of the rivers of Italy. And since your Imperial Majesty hastens to send Calandian ships there, may it be of advantage to me to have seen and known you. Grant peace to the place, that at least by your favour it may continue to exist, since it cannot resist you." But the sly fellow saw that I said this ironically, and with submissive mien promised that he would do this, and he swore to me by virtue of his holy empire that I should suffer no ill, but should prosperously and quickly arrive at the port of Ancona with his Calandian ships, and this he swore to me, striking his breast with his fingers. But mark how impiously he had sworn. These things were said and done on the 13th day before the calends of August, July 20th. On the 2nd day of the week, Monday, from which day until the 9th day, I received no supplies from him, and this was at a time when the famine in Constantinople was so great that for 3 gold pieces I was not able to provide a meal for my 25 companions and the 4 Greek guards. On the 4th day of that week, Nicephorus left Constantinople to march against the Assyrians. On the 5th day his brother called me before him and addressed me as follows. "The Holy Emperor has gone forth, and I have remained at home today at his command. Tell me, then, now, if you do desire to see the Holy Emperor, and if you have anything which you have not yet imparted." I answered him, "I have no reason for seeing the Holy Emperor, or for narrating anything new. I ask this alone, that, according to the promise of the Holy Emperor, he allow me to cross on his Calandian ships to the port of Ancona." On hearing this, the Greeks are always ready to swear by the head of another. He began to swear that he would do so by the head of the Emperor, by his own life, by his children, whom God, according as he spoke truly, was to preserve. When I asked him when, he answered, "As soon as the Emperor is gone, for the Dilongarus, in whose hand all the power over the ships rests, will see to you when the Holy Emperor goes away." Deceived by this hope, I went away from him rejoicing. But 2 days after, on Saturday, Nicephorus had me summoned to Umbria, which is a place 18 miles from Constantinople, and he said to me, I thought that you had come hither, as a distinguished and upright man, in order altogether to accede to my demands and to establish a perpetual friendship between me and your master. But as, on account of your hardness of heart, you are not willing to do this, at least bring about this one thing, which you may with perfect right do. Promise, namely, that your master will lend no aid to the princes of Capua and Benevento, my slaves, whom I am about to attack. Since he gives us nothing of his own, let him at least give up what is ours. It is a well-known thing that their fathers and grandfathers gave tribute to our empire, and that they themselves shall shortly do the same, for that the army of our empire will labor. I answered him, Those princes are nobles of the first rank and vassals of my master, and if he see that your army attacks them, he will send to them aid which will enable them to annihilate your forces and to take away those 2 provinces, which are yours beyond the sea. Then, swelling like a toad, and very angry, Go away, he said. By myself, by my parents who engendered me such as I am, I will make your master think of other things than of protecting rebellious slaves. As I was going away, he ordered the interpreter to invite me to table. And summoning the brother of those 2 princes, and Byzantius of Bari, he ordered them give vent to gross insults against yourselves and against the Latin and the Teuton race. But as I was going away from the foul meal, they sent word to me secretly, through messengers, and swore that what they had growled out had been said not of their own will, but because of the wishes and threats of the emperor. But Nicephorus himself asked me at that meal if you had parks, and if in your parks you had wild asses and other animals. When I had answered him that you had parks and animals in the parks, but no wild asses, he said, I will take you into our park, and you will be surprised to see its size, and to look at the wild asses. I was led, therefore, into a park, which was rather large, hilly, and fruitful, but not at all pleasing to the view, and as I was riding along with my hat on, and the marshal of the court saw me from afar, he, quickly, dispatched his son to me to say that it was wrong for any one to be with his hat on where the emperor was, and that I must wear the teristra. I answered, With us the women wear hoods and veils, the men ride with their hats on, and you have no right to compel me here to change the custom of my country, considering that we permit your envoys who come to us to keep to the custom of theirs, for with long sleeves, swathed, spangled, with long hair, clad in tunics down to their ankles they ride, walk and sit at table with us, and, what to all of us seems too disgraceful, they alone kiss our emperors with uncovered heads. May God not allow it to be done any longer, I said to myself. You must turn back, then, he said. As I did this, there met us, herded together with goats, the so-called wild asses. But why, I ask, wild asses? Our tame ones at Cremona are the same. Their colour, shape, and ears are the same. They are equally melodious when they begin to bray. They resemble each other in size, have the same swiftness, and are equally pleasant food for wolves. When I saw them, I said to the Greek who was riding with me, I never saw the like in Saxony. If, he said, your master shall be friendly to the holy emperor, he will give him many such, and it will be no little glory to him himself to possess what no one of his distinguished predecessors has ever seen. But believe me, my august masters, my brother and fellow bishop, Master Antony of Brixen, can furnish ones that are not inferior, as is witnessed by the markets which are held at Cremona, and there they walk about not as wild asses, but as tame ones. But when my escort had announced the above words to Nicephorus, He sent me 2 goats, and gave me permission to go away. On the following day he himself started towards Syria.